News ahead.
Better late than never. Sam Fowles, barrister and commentator, and Sophia Warringer, Deputy Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice, join us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're in a feisty mood this morning, let me just tell you. Here's one for you, Sam. I thought of you this morning when I read these headlines. The Daily Telegraph and The Times this morning, both reporting another triumph for the Starmer government. The headline in the Daily Telegraph, £1 billion blow to Starmer, push for growth. I mean, they've had a pretty shocking 100 days in government. And this is the front page of The Times this morning. Investment plan in chaos as minister insults the firm. I mean, this is just priceless. So you've got Louise Haigh, who is the employment the secretary, who basically says she's going to boycott P&O Ferries. They're about to announce this £1 billion investment in the ports in this country. It just shows enormous naivety, I think, and it shows that they are now the party of government. They're not the party of opposition, and they are very different.
Yeah, this is great. Good on Louise Haigh. Fantastic. Do you know
are kidding.
Do you know what P&O Ferries did?
Wait.
Do you know what they did?
Yes, I do.
Fired 800 people.
My goodness, Sam.
Flagrantly broke the law.
Yeah.
And Louise Haigh is saying, oh, God forbid a government should say companies should obey the law. Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak said, oh, well done for breaking the law. Well done for firing and rehiring 800 people. Well done for paying less than minimum wage. Have some more contracts. Thank God we've got a government that isn't bullied by these dodgy companies anymore.
Because we don't need £1 billion, do we?
I don't think we have a government. I think we just have a lone minister who's acting on her own because the government have distanced themselves from her comment and said that was her opinion, but that's not the government's opinion. I don't think actually the government are taking this head on.
Well, let's promote her. Let's put Louise Haigh further up in government. You don't grow an economy by doing dodgy deals with dodgy companies. You grow an economy by having clear regulations and enforcing them and applying the same to everyone.
OK, wouldn't you expect a government to have these conversations in private? You don't do it in public. And also, you've already got the summit together, where they're going to sign the £1 billion deal. And then, as Sophia rightly says, the government is distancing itself from their own minister.
Well, I think that's wrong with the government, actually. I think back Louise Haigh, give her a promotion. And no, don't do it in private. That's exactly the problem we've had before with the COVID contracts. Doing dodgy deals behind closed doors with your mates. Do it in public, say this is what I believe, this is how I'm enforcing the law, and we're not going to tolerate people abusing workers. I mean, come on. On the side of the working people.
Let me just ask you, do you think this government is showing strength and leadership?
On this issue, if they back Louise Haigh, yes. If they don't back Louise Haigh, no.
How is the government doing 100 days in?
I think that the honeymoon period was very quick. It went over, and we are now into the, as you said, the hard yards of governing, not being in opposition, which is very different. Although I do think as well the electorate are very volatile, and I wonder if we would have had this very sudden drop-off of popularity even when Blair was coming in 1997. I know his poll ratings came in at a very much a higher level, but I think the general public are in a lot kind of tighter leash with politicians now. So I think the polls move in a very kind of quick way, whereas before they might have been more steady.
I do think, to be fair to the government, that actually I don't think they knew what they were letting themselves in for, and I think one of the biggest mistakes has been to wait for this budget. I think this has been a vacuum for business, for uncertainty, for consumers. Rene and I were talking this morning how worried we are about what's going to be in that budget. I know lots of people are, particularly about private schools, which you and I have spoken about before. There's another story this morning. This is online. Firms have paused hiring staff and they're putting off investment decisions because they're worried about the tax rises. Do you think it was a real mistake to wait this long for the budget? It's very unusual to wait this long.
Yeah, I think they should have cracked on early on. It was difficult to do that because Parliament was in recess for much of the time, so they were sort of stymied by the timing. But on this story about firms pausing investment, firms have been pausing investment for 20 years. We have the lowest investment in the OECD in the West. Investment from firms is incredibly low for a really long time. That's not just because of this budget. Let me just
ask you this. If you were running a business in this country, would you invest now before the budget? Answer no.
No, I'd be waiting for the budget. That's entirely sensible. But I think the way these stories are being run, now, and this story has come out not because firms are doing the sensible thing, because everyone waits for the budget every time, whichever the government is. It's coming out now because Labour are putting in place new laws to stop firms exploiting their workers, and this story is coming from a lobby group that is lobbying against those laws.
Well,
let's be honest about where this is coming from.
Actually, that the government is about to put in place legislation that means businesses won't employ people.
That seems what's coming out of businesses. They think they are very nervous about these regulations. There are some of the reforms which I think are good, things like being able from day zero to be eligible for maternity and paternity leave. You know, that's a very small change which will make a big difference to people. That is in a very different
Don't you think that will make a big difference to small businesses?
Because most statutory payments are paid by the government anyway, whether it's day 0 or week 26. So I don't think it will make that much difference to their bottom line. Obviously, if they do enhanced maternity or to paternity, that's up to them. What is the problem, though, when
they're not just all statutory payments.
No.
Small businesses are crippled by maternity leave quite often when they've only got 5 workers and they have to carry one worker.
I agree, but you can't always plan when you have a child, and I think people therefore don't move up to another job because they're worried about not getting anything. But that aside, the problem, I think, is their knee-jerk reaction of the government to ban things. So they want to ban zero-hour contracts. But of course, actually, for many people, zero-hour contracts work really well. Actually, this week, the Centre for Social Justice, where I work, has put out a report that says that 75% of young people who have experience of zero-hour contracts say that their working conditions are satisfactory or good. They like them, they want them, they want more hours,
What do they like? The flexibility?
They like the flexibility. They see it as a stepping stone to their next job. They see it as a kind of a way of training, putting their toe in the water. For young people, a lot of them, they can work really well.
Well, the law that's being proposed allows workers to choose zero-hour contracts if they want. So
but they've already watered down that. Initially, they were going to say ban all zero-hour contracts, and now they said ban exploitative zero-hour contracts.
What the law allows workers to gives workers an entitlement to a minimum level of hours.
That's
and
not
to
a zero-hour contract,
and to choose.
That's not a zero-hour contract.
And to choose a zero-hour contract if they want it. So there's no problem there.
Sam, you said that this was a lobby group this story was coming from. What do we say about Sainsbury's? The Labour's biggest party donor and the biggest donor of the campaign during this year's general election was Lord Sainsbury's, the former chairman of the Sainsbury's supermarket chain. Now we have Sainsbury's this morning saying they too are pulling back on everything because they're worried about what the government are going to do.
They're pulling back on everything because they don't know what the government is going to do. No business would invest in the run-up to the budget. You don't make a business decision just before the budget.
So therefore the government isn't providing stability and clarity as to what it is going to do.
It provides stability and clarity in the budget.
Yes,
this is what happens. Tory Labour governments, no one invests in the month before the budget.
I think it's because the government has no idea what they're about to do, and they are then teasing out these headlines to see how people react, and they are changing the budget as a result of that.
Well, what are they changing? This is, I mean, where's the basis? We're on pure speculation here, aren't we?
Sophia.
And when we're saying what they've changed, they've already changed their commitment on zero-hour contracts to exploitative zero-hour contracts. So they are absolutely shifting the dial. But I think the problem is also the budget has been initially set up as this huge thing that's going to set the direction for the next Parliament. But then they said, oh no, actually, the multi-year spending review is going to be in the spring. So that pushes the decision further down the line and gives even more uncertainty.
Can I just mention something that Rupert Lowe said? He's a Reform MP. He said, I'm looking at the business experience of the Cabinet. Out of 26 around that table, only 3 have any experience in creating or running a small business. How on earth can you have people around that table when no one has actually done what the majority of these, or the backbone of this country does, which is the SMEs, the small, medium enterprises? He says there are 5.5 million SMEs in the UK and they deserve proper representation at the highest level of government. I agree with him. I think you need someone in there who actually understands what it's like to take those risks, to run an SME, to invest in your own business. I've done it. It's really hard.
What about the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister ran a small business.
What
like
business?
I run a bit. The Prime Minister, like me...
Yes, what small business?
We're both barristers. We both run our own chambers or take part in running our own chambers. We both know how it is, what it's like to take those decisions. And to be honest, speaking from that, I think if I as an employer can't employ the people that work for me on good terms and on fair terms, then that's my fault as an employer. I don't deserve to be running a business.
Do you think being a barrister is representative of most SMEs?
Well, in that we make hiring and firing decisions.
Is
We're
it
responsible.
representative of most SMEs?
I don't think anything. If you pick any one SME, it's not representative of most SMEs. Is being running a carpentry business the same representative as running a garage?
More similar.
No, obviously not. Is it
yeah.
like I have to make my payroll.
Yeah.
I have to make my financial targets, and I have to do it on a quarterly basis. That's what every other small business has to do.
I don't think it's very representative, and I think, yeah, it's obviously everyone who works in, if it's a profit or not for profit, you've got to manage budgets and make firing and hiring decisions. I don't think that's exclusive to business only. But I do agree that there is this government knee-jerk reaction to business. Oh, they must be bad, they must be exploitative, we need to tax them, we need to push them into the ground. I think that comes out a lot, particularly in the Deputy Prime Minister's views and the way that she talks about business, and she sees them as a kind of a cash cow to be milked rather than seeing there's something to work with.
No evidence for this at all. She's saying they should obey the law. This is not saying they're a cash cow. She's saying that P&O Ferries shouldn't be breaking the law. Surely that's okay.
But at the same time, they're toying with, you know, having stealth kind of taxes that will increase both the revenue that they can take from businesses and also the regulation that businesses have to.
Sam, it's about language, isn't it? I mean, I've already said this morning that nobody can condone what P&O did when they fired.
I think we all agree with that.
And took on cheaper workers. Of course, none of us want that. I don't want it. I want jobs for people here at good salaries. But I think it's about language, isn't it? She called them a rogue operator. They're about to invest £1 billion in the country. Surely those are conversations that happen behind the scenes. And to the public, she could have said, look, there are practices here that we don't agree with, but hopefully as we go together in our plan, we can work through them.
Okay, they're about to invest £1 million. £1 billion, sorry,
which would employ people
in two harbours that they already own, so that they can make a profit.
No,
right?
They would employ people in this country.
They're not doing us a favour. They're trying to make a profit.
No business is there for altruistic purposes purely. They have to make a profit. That's why they exist.
Oh yeah. So let's say go ahead and make a profit and obey the rules. Don't try and bully us by saying, oh, we're going to pull this out.
Renée's right. If you are the government minister, it's how you couch that to say we're working through some of those problems, but £1 billion investment in this country is welcome because we will employ people. I'm going to a break at that point. After the break, we'll continue with Head to Head. I'm joined by Sam Fowles, barrister and commentator, who's very feisty this morning, straight out the traps. Also, Sophia Warringer, who's Deputy Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice. Now, in the break, many of you have been sending in voice notes. Let's hear a couple of those voice notes. Who have we got first? We have got Tristan.
I have to say that Keir Starmer is going to see it all out because he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. He seems, every time he's in interviews, he just keeps saying that, yeah, going to do this, going to do that. But they are totally ideological. And I was at Doncaster races in September, and during the Sledger meeting, and he was booed. He was really booed. He's lucky he had security around, because if he didn't, I don't think he would have made it out there alive. But seriously, they are so ideological driven. It's worrying, and I will leave the country if they get in crazily back in 2029.
I know you can't hear that. So that basically the thrust of that was Keir Starmer is so ideologically driven. It's worrying. I'm going to leave the country. Let's hear from Claire now. Good morning.
Morning, David and Renee. How can this government bring their ideology into the wealth making of this country? They'll frighten off everyone that brings prosperity and want to invest. The workers' rights bill's a fiasco and will close businesses and stop business expansion. Children in the room and no adults.
Love that. So you'll love that. So children, basically the Labour government is all children, no adults. Let's just talk very quickly about the 100 days. Mr Doom and Gloom, also known as the Prime Minister, has been talking it down. They've made up this £22 billion hole, which no one can corroborate. Just in terms of that first 100 days, has it gone well?
Well, let's say this, right?
Yes.
He has managed to go a whole 100 days without tanking the economy, trying to rule the country without Parliament, or flushing loads of money down the toilet on a
It's only 100 days.
So there you go. That's 100 days. That makes a better 100 days than the last three Prime Ministers.
Has it been a great...
So compared to the last three Prime Ministers, good.
Has it?
Compared to what I would have liked to have seen, not so good.
OK, winter fuel payments, that was a triumph.
Oh, winter fuel payments, I think, was the wrong thing to do, because you're going to have to pick up the tab elsewhere.
Yeah.
However, given that pensioners' incomes have gone up ahead of inflation, everyone else's incomes has not. If you're going to take money from someone, money from pensioners is the right place to go.
Well, they haven't gone up ahead of inflation. They've gone up with inflation because that's what the triple lock does.
Yes, it's one of the triple lock.
No, and because of the triple lock, they've gone up ahead of wage inflation.
So I'd be very careful walking down the street if you meet older people.
By the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'll be very popular amongst older people.
And he just changed that statement. That they've gone up ahead of wage inflation, but they haven't gone up ahead of inflation.
And they have gone up ahead of price inflation as well.
They have.
So they've gone up over the last 10 years. Pensions up 60%. Over the last 10 years, price inflation up 40%.
We have the lowest pension bar one in Europe.
I just want to move on, Sophia. Just in terms of that, we've got Wahid Ali, of course, giving suits and glasses. We've got his flat being used by Starmer's son. We've got Sue Gray, Morgan McSweeney coming in here. The mood from Labour members of Parliament, shall we say, is a little bit funereal. They're deeply worried about holding on to their seats at the moment. And one of the backbenchers said McSweeney is not the Messiah. How's it being when Keir Starmer has a net favourability score of -36?
I think you're right. The Labour Party is feeling very kind of on edge, and lots of the MPs are very concerned already about refighting and re-winning their seats, and that is not a way to govern, because then they're going to be very internal, they're going to be very casework driven, they're going to be basically local councillors, they're not going to be making those long-term decisions for the future of the country, because they're going to be so ingested in the internal politics of the party and led by what's going on in their constituency. That is not a way to set a vision that will inspire people to move forward. So I think they need to get better at politics, the Labour Party. They've had this internal fight between McSweeney and Gray. Obviously, that has ended with McSweeney winning for now. But I don't think that they realise how much scrutiny that they will be under as government. I think they can slip under the radar in the way that they did in opposition. I think they're waking up to the fact that being government is a lot harder.
Do you think that's true? I do.
I actually agree with that. I think they had a strategy in opposition, which was keep your head down, don't interrupt your opponent while they're making a mistake. And obviously, you can't do that in government. However, don't think it's fair to say they don't have a long-term vision for the country, because the whole budget speculation is about long-term investment. And in fact, the criticism of the budget that's being made is there's too much long-term, not enough short-term. You know, we need to see a bit of bread today, not just bread tomorrow. In terms of this, all of the tabloid stuff about donations, I just think the hypocrisy is absolutely rank here.
But the point was, remember, Starmer came in saying this is a new slate. We will govern as we want to be seen to be governing. We want to be seen to be holier than thou. So therefore there should be no sleaze. It's been a terrible look.
And I advised the Labour Party years ago that they should cut out donations completely as soon as they got into power, because political donations, however you make them, is inherently corrupt. However, the Labour Party donations that they're getting crucified for at the moment were all donations that were properly declared and accepted within the rules.
Not strictly true.
The rules that the previous government put in place. The donations the previous government were criticised for were donations that were not properly declared.
That's actually incorrect as well. Renee. OK, £16,000 of Keir Starmer's clothes from Lord Ali were declared as office requirements.
Not as clothes.
And when you declare your tax, you declare clothes for work can be declared as office requirements.
You can't actually claim clothes for work,
No, you
Sam.
can't,
I'm
because
sure you know that running your own business.
Hang on a minute. There was a court case involving barristers, wasn't there, where actually they then ruled that you can't claim clothes.
You can claim some. You can't.
You can claim uniforms.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're claiming suits, well, you can't claim loads of suits.
You can't claim any suits.
You can't claim any suit.
Uniform.
You're right. You can't claim a suit if you can wear it in public life. That's my understanding of that.
I haven't checked this, so I'm going to concede on that.
I have checked it, because I do a tax return as well.
But Sophia, let's go to you just in terms of that, because it's not good enough just to hark back to the previous government. We all know their own faults. But the point was that Keir Starmer came to power saying it's a new era, it's a new page, we're turning that page and we will be whiter than white, and it hasn't happened.
Exactly, and it's the hypocrisy, I think, from the Labour government backwards that irks people. I think people understand that these people in Parliament, in politics, they are mixing with people that are way more kind of have higher incomes than them, but they don't have the equivalent power. So they understand that there is all this kind of whining and dining that goes around. But the problem is that the Labour Party have staked their claim on criticising the Conservative government for doing that and have done exactly the same.
So, Sam, can they turn it round?
Yeah, absolutely, they can turn it around. If we need a budget that is going to invest in public services, invest in the economy, invest in infrastructure, and that's the only way to grow the economy. I'd love to see that.
Sophia, can they turn it around?
I think they can. I mean, they've got a while, haven't they?
They have a while.
So I think that's the thing that's going for them. But I do think they need to start making better decisions about the politics and making those communications to the public about why they're doing what they're doing clearer.
Yeah. OK, thank you so much to both of you. Sam Fowles, barrister and commentator, Sophia Warringer, Deputy Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice. And that was today's Head-to-Head.
Head-to-Head.